And by doing so, you're supporting the only locally owned and operated radio station in Tallahassee. I thank you for that. Appreciate you watching on Warchant TV, the YouTube channel. The wildly popular Jeff Cameron Show on there, that Warchant TV. Man, combining forces for thousands and thousands and thousands. Feels good. Feels good to be able to do it. Thanks for the support. It enables us, and we appreciate that. So, speaking of which, you could like and subscribe. Pass it around. Hey, I'm not supposed to do that. Maybe I am. I'll do it anyhow. We're rebellious. You know, I thought about it when I watched this morning, and I'll go straight to the baseball. Tom and I mean, to the basketball, to the football, one of the balls. Hey, now, in a moment.
It is the day for that.
Good God Almighty! I will get to that in a moment. I want to start first with basketball, which got underway last night and got their first win. And congratulations to Luke Laux and his staff getting their first win. Hey, look, there's always the first, and we could do this. The steps of a journey begin with and all that good stuff. But you got to get a win, and you got a glimpse there. Tom and I did the Warchant report this morning, and afterwards I knew I needed to get familiarized with what occurred last night. So I was able to do so. And because last night we went out to dinner for my son's 18th birthday, and that went well. Had a big steak, Tom. Big, delicious steak.
What kind of cut?
I got a classic bone-in ribeye. That's what I did.
Hey, now.
It was delicious. Very, very well aged and marbled, and it was wonderful.
You go medium rare at the restaurant? Medium?
Always go medium rare or rare. Don't fool around with ruining my steak. So that's what we did, and it was delicious, and they did a great job. And anyhow, so we did that. But that meant that at least this particular time, I was not going to be able to see the game live. So I didn't get to. And in that moment, I was like, hey, I was pissed. I was like, not pissed that I was at my son's birthday, but pissed that it coincided. So I was going to have to miss the first win in Luke Laux' career.
I think you would have enjoyed it in real time rather than condensed version, because we kind of play the condensed version game of basketball.
We do.
Where we get down the court, first good look, get it up to the rim, and we made a lot of those shots last night.
We sure did.
And then there were times where we slowed down and or had a couple of runs go against us. You're just going to have to expect that 8-0, 10-0 is going to happen for us and against us probably between 3 and 5 times every game in total for both sides. That's just the way we play the game. But I think it was 12-12, and then from that point on, you're like, oh, okay, here go the Noles. This is what they're going to do. Even though Alcorn shot very, very well in the first half.
That's why they were in the game.
So did we. And, and they were kind of in it, but we all knew what was happening here. It's just we're still getting our sea legs under us to be able to go full track meet mode. It's fun. It's going to take a while to get used to this because it is so different. Even seeing the exhibition season and seeing last night, it's still going to take a while to understand what it is that we are. And I think we're going to see some surprising results both ways as we get into the bulk of good non-conference games and then early ACC play in December.
Yeah, I like the process of getting familiarized with many of these players, and there are some that have a lot of ability, and that they're only going to get better as time goes on, and you're gonna figure out their roles a little bit. I do want to take a moment to congratulate Jalen Crawford. I'm friends with Adrian Crawford. Full transparency here. Of course, Adrian played back in the day, and I was on the air covering him. I used to call him the gunner for some of the ill-advised shots that Adrian would take. I know you're listening, Adrian. I love you. He was not afraid of a shot. He was not afraid of a shot. And his son scored last night. He's a walk-on, and he knocked down a tray in the final minute of the game in order to score his first career points at FSU, which is neat. It is true for all of us that if you don't get to games early this year, they play again on Friday. If you don't get to games early this year, just be prepared the next day to be looking at new records. With the pace that they're going to play at, you're going to see all kinds of records fall for Florida State. And that'll be neat. It'll be fun to watch. It will be, each time you look up, an assist record, a points record, field goals made in a game record, and all that kind of thing, because they are volume. And last night they were victorious. Florida State wins easily over Alcorn State to start the year, 108-76 at the TLC Double C. And again, they're going to be fun to watch develop, and will get familiarized with both style and player and coaching staff for that matter. It's all new. I will say, when you play Alabama State at 7 p.m. this Friday at the TLC Double C, first of all, Florida State's out of town on a Saturday night, so maybe more people will make their way over there to that game than expected. I am free from having to attend a high school football game, Tom, so I will be at said game, and I look forward to it. And you are playing the SWAC champion from a year ago. It's not like they haven't done anything, so you might get a little better test there, and that should be fun.
Well, a couple of things from last night. LeJay Jones is not afraid to thunder. No. He will always take the opportunity to try to do so.
18 points.
We know what McCray is in terms of setting a program record in assists, is what you're alluding to.
Yep.
A lot of control when he has the ball. You feel like things are in control, which is nice. It calms you down as a fan. Even though Kobe McGee only scored 9 points, I can see where he's going to translate against tougher competition, the shots he can take, the space he can create for himself.
3 of 5 from.
I do like that. Yeah, just a couple of those shots, though, you're thinking, okay, when we're playing somebody not named Alcorn State, can you get this look? And for a lot of what we did last night, I'm not so sure. Kobe McGee does have a little bit of that to him. And then Chauncey Wiggins, of his three-pointers that were made, he's not afraid to take one from 28 feet, 30 feet. Straight away.
22 points last night. He's going to be a scorer, yes.
And what Luke said after the game is he was more impressed by the 5 rebounds because they're asking him, they're begging him, they're imploring him to be more physical along the glass. But he's not afraid to shoot the rock. And nobody is on this team. That is part of how it's designed. But it's fun to watch. It's just hard to know what they are because it's very, very early in the season.
Keep an eye on Cam Miles. He led all scorers off the bench, and just a little birdie. Keep an eye on him. Watch some guys here that you're going to have some fun getting to know, and they're going to get better as the season goes on. There's some dudes now that can be a lot of fun here.
Yeah, Cam Miles is another guy who can generate his own offense if things fall stagnant. Yes.
Keep an eye on him.
Yeah, good call.
Some guys out there, guys. They've got some dudes now. This is going to be a fun team. They have their foibles, and you got to understand that's a staff that came in and had to, on the fly, put together a roster, and you weren't going to get everything you needed. Now, what they have coming down the pike fills plenty of those needs, at least for now, with the verbal commitments they have, including most notably in the middle in the paint with Marcus Ponder. But we don't have them this year, so you're going to have to go through these growing pains till you can get them.
Yeah, to your point, like, for example, looking at the bench, Miles is somebody that is an exciting proposition, whereas Basong is raw, and it can work against Alcorn State. It might work against on Friday night, but I think there's some things where Basong's going to be out of his league until he gets up to speed at the next level, which is totally understandable. Different continent, and he's a freshman. So that's going to happen, and apparently his name is pronounced Toma, not Thomas Basong. We learned that last night in the postgame as well.
Toma Basong.
But there are some nice pieces here that I really hope translate the way I think they might translate into conference play, where you go, what do we have here? They might have something.
I'm trying to be careful because
too.
We have to just wait and see, but they might. Let's and the staff knows that they've got to be careful. We'll see. They'll be a good team, not a great team. Listen, I think they have a chance to be above average.
They all seem to like each other too, and everybody does in the beginning of a year when you haven't lost the game. But that bench does look together, which is something that you're going to need when there's a talent deficit. You got to love each other a little bit extra.
I'll tell you that the staff, the way they're constructed, and the way that they had to recruit, and the way that they interact with players, been to practices. This is interesting. They're going to be players' coaches. Luke isn't that far removed from being a player himself over in Europe and then an assistant in the NBA just a year ago. In the previous years, he's a young guy. So it makes sense. Like, he has fun with those guys at practice. Remember, he's a guy who used to sit out there with Steph Curry and engage in 3-point contests. He used to have a blast. He's got some fun stories about that too, by the way. One of those involved Steph Curry once making 73 threes in a row. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. 73 threes in a row. That you turn off your brain. Can you imagine being able to turn off your brain to that extent?
Yeah, that's essentially guided meditation at that point.
Craziness. All right, so I've got a thought about the game on Saturday night. And I want to explore it because we've seen elements of what's happening at Clemson happen here. And there's a bigger picture conversation to have about that. And certainly we can talk about the direct effect that it'll have on the outcome of Saturday night's game, possibly. And it is hard to quantify, I think, whatever this game is for either Clemson or Florida State, both shells of the programs they used to be and two restless fan bases. Welcome to the club, Clemson. It's a not so fun club to be a part of, is it? Where every Saturday you wonder whether or not your team can win a football game. In Clemson's case, they're banting about the question as to whether or not they'll ever beat a Power 4 team at home again, which is bizarre. They still charging the field after the games, after these losses? They still going out there doing their little hick dance fest out there on the field together?
I thought that was every game you're allowed.
That's
now.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're still doing it? You going to run out on the field after you get your ass kicked every time you play a game? Chef Cameron Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. We'll talk about it in a second. I want to posit a couple of things there. Stay with.
Parker Services, compresses to call away. 222-7722. AC and electric is what we do. Service, repairs, and installation too. 222-7722. Parker Services, compresses to call away. Parker Services, compresses to call away.
Fall is here, and that means it's time to make sure your home is ready for the season ahead. At Parker Services AC and Electrical, a peak performance membership keeps your comfort systems running at their best year-round. Members enjoy priority scheduling, exclusive discounts, and seasonal tune-ups that help identify small problems before they turn into big repairs. Don't wait until your heater has issues. Call Parker Services today and ask about peak performance membership.
Parker Services, compresses to call away.
License number CMC 050334, EC 1301240.
Here's the cold, hard truth. Your body needs more than you're giving it to stay healthy. And now it's easier than ever with Vigor, the all-new cold plunge tub from Hot Spring Spas. Available only at Pinch a Penny Pools and Spas in Tallahassee. Cold plunges reduce muscle soreness, boost mood, improve sleep, and so much more. It's not just a trend, it's science-backed wellness. And now you can have it in your own home. Ready to feel alive again? Pinch a Penny has the exclusive home use solution. Visit us on Capitol Circle Northeast and take the plunge.
Hey everybody, this is Shannon Young with Cross Country Mortgage. Been in the industry now for 22 years. I just made the move over to the nation's largest retail lender, Cross Country Mortgage, here to serve you in 7 states, including Florida, Georgia, Alabama, the Carolinas, Tennessee, and the state of Texas. Here to offer better service, better rates, and if you were thinking about buying or if you've been on the fence and been waiting to call me, now is the time. You can still find me at loansforknowles.com. That is, again, loansforknowles.com. I've helped thousands of fellow Knowles get into their dream home, and I can't wait to help you get into yours. Give me a call today. I'm at 954-369-6171, or go to loansforknowles.com. Again, that's 954-369-6171, and that's loansforknowles.com.
Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 373031.
Go custom with your window coverings with help from Budget Blinds of Tallahassee. Budget Blinds brings their showroom to your home with dozens of color and pattern choices. Just tell them what you love and they'll make it happen. From designing custom draperies and Roman shades to color matching your blinds and shutters.
I'm Gary, the local owner of Budget Blinds Tallahassee, where you get beautiful style and expert service for any budget. Call 668-4835 for a free consultation online at budgetblinds.com/Tallahassee.
Craving something different? Discover the bold and surprising flavors of Peru at Café de Martín. From sizzling lomo saltado to savory handmade empanadas, every dish is made with heart, history, and soul. Crafted by classically trained Chef Martin himself. It's not just food. It's a trip to Peru without the plane ticket. Swing by Café de Martin today and taste the tradition. Café de Martin, authentic Peruvian, right around the corner.
From the championship stage to coaching change and everything in between, Warchant.com remains your home for the best FSU football coverage in the business. Brutally honest columns and features, market-leading multimedia presence across video and podcast, the largest FSU fan community with a staff that combines for over 100 years of experience covering the Noles. When change comes, Warchant.com is your home for analysis from every angle. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Sign up today.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Tom, I have a quandary. Should I take Keith Mitchell this week? You know how I have a love-hate with Keith Mitchell.
No, and then you should place a separate wager on him to win the tournament.
To win the tournament?
Yep.
All right. I got me some Ben Griffin because you know I love me some Ben Griffin, but damn it, man.
Whatever happened to Lanto Griffin?
Struggling.
Yeah.
Struggling. Yeah. Game began to fall off. You know what's fun about following data golf for gambling purposes? I guess you could call it fun. You see names that were omnipresent in some of the lesser than tournaments as pre-tournament top 25 type picks to make the cut. You know, just a little pizza money to make the cut.
Lipsky?
Yeah, guys like that. You watch them begin to, you're like, I can get that guy for $7 this week. You know, you're like, oh, he's almost out of the league, as they say. You know, and somebody, you see it. It's so sad. You're like, oh, no, look at that. So-and-so is going to be out of the league soon. Yeah, I do it all the time. Like, well, that's where Nick Dunlap went.
But thanks to Tiger, he's made $6.5 million in his career being Nick Dunlap.
Yeah, like I forgot about him. That's where Aaron Wise is. Aaron Wise.
He went the way of Wise potato chips.
Like, here we go. Do you remember those delivered back in the day?
They were delivered?
You could get Charlie's chips, and then there was some
others.
Oh,
yeah,
with the brown
chips.
canister.
Yes.
Yeah,
that was a high-class looking canister.
But it was a big to-do to have that dropped off at the house. I remember that. Yeah, Charlie's chips.
I was always fond of Wise potato chips. I thought they were infinitely superior to Lay's and other potato chip brands. But that's just me.
Okay, so if you guys are not aware, and I was just talking about this for those of you just joining, Clemson's having a rough go. I know that for the most part, we like to hyper-focus on our rough go, and I understand. You know, it's kind of our job. It's the central theme of the Jeff Cameron Show, and we have to document FSU football, and in the last 2 years, documenting FSU football means you do things like documenting loss after loss after loss after loss, 4 of them to be exact this year in a row until the spell was broken. On Saturday night, the curse was lifted. Florida State able to rip from the chains, the shackles of loss. They get a win over Wake Forest in the ACC, Tom. Ain't just any win. That's an ACC win. You won't Bohica us. Well, at least not Platinum. You might Bohica us several times in the middle of the season, but you're not going to Platinum Bohica us. That ain't happening. So it is that we go into the Clemson game on a 1-game winning streak. Clemson, on the other hand, lost to Duke, rather improbably, giving up the ghost at the end of that game with a very lengthy drive and a 2-point conversion. It'll hurt your feelings when you score 45 and you give up 46 at home.
And they took the lead in the second half and gave up about a 100-yard kick return for a touchdown as well.
They did, right? The other thing they did was give up points right before the end of the half.
Rather improbably for that drive. Dear God. Yes.
Yeah, a couple of things, right? Well, Tom and I have noticed. He pointed me in the direction of the secondary. I noticed some things about the offense, and we both came to the conclusion that they have been infected. Clemson has. They have 5 losses this year. If you were unaware, they are sitting at 3-5. That's worse than 4-4. They are 3-5 now. They have a better conference record at 2-4 to our 1-4.
There's a big one for the tiebreaker in the standings.
Two juggernauts meet on a Saturday night on the ACC network. But most of us, historically speaking, are not accustomed to seeing these two programs play in a game in which one is 12th in the ACC and the other is, not last. And you say to yourself, well, what gives? What's happening? What do they have injuries? Are there problems that I'm unaware of? I haven't been paying close attention to Clemson because once I realized by week 3 they were no longer a threat to make the playoff, and certainly by week 4 when they lost to Syracuse, they were no threat to make the playoff. We went, okay, whatever. We'll deal with Clemson when we get to them. Well, we've gotten to them. It's happened. What you realize is they've got a whole lot of indifference that has permeated that locker room. A disconnect between the players and the coaches. Only way to explain it. I'll note that Clemson projects, and if you want to take the average projection, you can. I looked at 8 different sites in order to do this exercise. Projects to have 4 picks in the first 2 rounds. Some say 3 in the first round for sure. They got guys littering the field that are first, second, third, fourth round picks. 3 that are first round, early second. 4 that are, day 1 picks. It's stunning to watch that kind of talent have that kind of record. And the only way you can say that that's possible is when people tune people out and stop really trying very hard. And I think that's what Clemson has going on right now is Dabo's press conferences are fairly unhinged. His incessant need to remind you of how great he's been time and again while documenting another loss. In the moment, he'll own up to the loss, but it's disingenuous because it's always followed by, we've won a lot of championships around here. It's just, having a tough go. Just say you're having a tough year. Just say you're not playing well. Just say you're not doing a good job. Don't remind me of how great you were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 7 years ago. You were. Duly noted. I think anybody that follows college football recognizes Clemson has been on a tear in this league and has been one of the better programs in college football over the last 20 years without question. And they've been heralded as such. Nobody's ignored their successes. It's a bad look that when the standard is broken and the losses begin to mount, and some of them are inexplicable and many of them are at home, for you to fall back on yesteryear's successes. People resent that. And I understand why they resent that. It's also irrelevant. We're in the now. You just lost to Duke, and the week before you lost to SMU, an SMU team that scored a grand total of 12 points against Wake Forest and lost. You lost to Georgia Tech. You lost to Syracuse. Those 2 games are not games that, at least on paper, from a talent standpoint, you should have lost. LSU has subsequently fired their coach, another team that you lost to start the year, scoring a grand total of 10 points. So people want to know why, and I see a lot of loafing. I see a lot of guys not running. I see a lot of guys turning it down, and it reminds me of some of the things we saw here last year. And when you become infected with that, it becomes very debatable as to whether or not you can get it cleared up, removed, cut out. We wondered about it coming into this year. Florida State attempting to move on from a season like that, a aimless, pointless, gutless campaign that they engineered a year ago, brought in more assistants, new assistants, an OC and a DC specifically, along with an offensive line coach, etc., in the hopes that you could revitalize a program that once was on high, that had won, as Mike Norvell pointed out, the ACC championship just a couple years ago. And right now, you'd say jury's kind of still out because they have played harder. They are better. They've also lost 4 games. Clemson's in the middle of figuring out what they have to do differently and whether or not most importantly, the head coach is going to be a part of it. And I asked this today. Does Dabo Swinney want to stay as head coach of the Clemson Tigers? And Saturday night may give you the answer. It may seem absurd on its face, but when you look at his actions, you see the belligerence and the fury and the anger that he's had, rightfully, at players on the sideline for a lack of effort. When you listen to the press conferences, frequently, as I noted, defensive, at times downright buffoonish, as well as at times contrite, in which he said just this week, I've sucked this year. You almost get a sense like he is engineering his own exit, setting the stage. Some of you were on this. Ira brought it up early in the year, and then we talked about it on the air after some comments that he made at a press conference and a call-in show. And some of you listeners in the chat said, it sounds like a guy who's setting the stage to exit. I believe that sounds like a familiar refrain, and it does. He does seem like that. So the game Saturday night, two programs trying to get back on track, an elite contest in name only these days, could tell a lot about both programs. There are a number of our fans that want to believe that Mike can right the ship and win out. This would be a big one because on paper, I'll be honest with you, it's not a good matchup for Florida State. The things that Clemson doesn't do well defensively are things that we might not be able to exploit with our lack of sophistication in the passing game. And the other problem is I do wonder whether or not Clemson will be aided by the fact that this is a 7:00 game at night against a name opponent. You see Florida State run out of that tunnel for whatever we've been. It's still everybody's Super Bowl. It's still everybody's big moment in the sun because we rate. We have the cachet. It's why we brokered the sweetheart deal of deals that we did when suing the ACC, because our numbers are our numbers and people see the garnet and the gold and they get excited to go to war with the Noles. And if Clemson can't, and they're listless in this game, and they go through the motions in this game, then you may have your answer to the question whether or not Dabo Swinney will still be at Clemson. Not because they'll fire him, but because some choices will be made mutually. We'll see. He would contest that. He'd call me crazy. He'd say, you're wrong. You're out of touch. You're not here. You're not one of us. Fair enough. We'll let it all play out and watch from afar. However, if after watching Clemson lose 5 games this year and perpetually lose at home and give up 46 points just a week ago to Duke, if you go up there and get blown out by Clemson, might you also have your answer about your head coach and where this program is most assuredly at, having received a temporary stay by beating Wake Forest this past Saturday night?
Yeah, this game is littered with subtext instead of viewers. We're going to get no national viewership. We're on the ACC network. The powers that be thought Miami-Syracuse was a better 3:30 game than Florida State and Clemson. And so, therefore, we are remanded not from ESPN at 3:30. We're remanded to the ACC network in the 7:00 hour. This is a game that has tons of subtext. Whoever loses this game will have some serious questions on their hands. And Dabo's not nearly on the hot seat that Mike is, but if you're assuming that Dabo wants to engineer his way out, that he's seeing that time is up, there's plenty of evidence to that end. There's tons of evidence. Here's some more evidence for you. Replenishment of the roster. This was considered to be a playoff contender and favorite because they had the most returning production of any team in the power schools. They were 80-something%, 85.
And as I noted, projected first rounders.
Right. But you've got nearly 90% returning production from last year, a team that did backdoor its way into the playoff. You know they haven't had a top 10 recruiting class since 2021?
Yeah.
You know, we're ahead of them right now. We finished ahead of them last year when we had to buy a bunch of players off at the end.
Yeah.
We finished 20th. They were 23rd in recruiting class. The year before, we finished ahead of them again. So we're on pace to finish ahead of Clemson from a recruiting standpoint for 3 straight years. If we were up there and talking about their recruiting, that is insane. That can't happen.
Well, some of it, yeah. I think there's a disconnect. There clearly is a disconnect going on at Clemson right now.
So there's
between the coach and the players and the community and the whole program.
So you might be a little top heavy with veteran talent, don't have a ton of it behind it, at least not at the same rate that Clemson has enjoyed for the better part of 20 years, 15 years, certainly. I don't know. Maybe Dabo's ready to hit the reset button because this was supposed to be a year to get fat, and they're not.
Well, they were predicted by all to take the conference title and was thought to be a surefire playoff contender, and they're having this campaign, which, again, when this happens, you get the evidence that you suspected from the year before but needed to see more of in order to come to a final conclusion. You know, we saw some things a year ago where you're like, I don't know, things don't seem to be quite right there. It wasn't off the rails. Clearly, they made the playoff, but it didn't seem Clemson-like. You saw some signs of trouble on the horizon. And then you get this season in which they're 2-4 in the ACC, 3-5 overall. They lose a lot of home games. That used to never happen. It's a tough place to play, legitimately. And, their fans are rabid. They're good fans. They show up. They care deeply. So it shouldn't happen, but it does, and we've seen it. And when things begin to fall apart, it can spiral in a hurry. And now you have, Mike Norvell fighting desperately to change the way that he's viewed, the way this program is viewed. Players came out on his behalf after the win on Saturday night. I pointed out that I thought it was a little late and a little thou protest too much. Could have used your effort against Stanford if you were trying to save the man's job. But nonetheless.
Well, and Tommy's been trying to save his job since the summer.
Right. And quoted as such. But I do think we're going to get some answers. Now, I guess there's another alternative. You could get 2 teams that don't play hard and play well on Saturday night, and we get the game we deserve. 6-3. I doubt it. I'd like to believe both will show up. Well, truthfully, I'd like to believe we show up and they don't. That'd be a better thing to believe.
It'd be funny. It
would be fun. We would benefit for once when a program is calling it a day as we stroll into town. We've been allowing others to be the benefactor of that over the last couple of years, unfortunately. I'd love to see a scenario where it defies logic based on the talent in the uniform. You go up there and all of a sudden you look up and it's 21-0 Florida State second quarter and you go, oh, it's happening. They're imploding right here, right now. This is it. The way we did it. Pick your game, 52-3 to Notre Dame. I don't know.
The band is so despondent, they're not even just playing that one note for 20 seconds. They're done. They're not even playing the note.
But something tells me, like I said before, the spear, garnet and gold, charging out of that tunnel will unfortunately awaken Clemson for a night. And if that happens, again, the matchup isn't good for us, given what they do well and what we do poorly. And how it matches up. I could see this not being a pretty game. But I can't predict whether Clemson's going to care, and so I'm really interested.
It's going to be like that episode of South Park where they're all in Little League and all the kids are trying to throw the game because they don't want to deal with their parents fighting in the stands anymore. And you're like, who wants it less?
Oh, man.
Hope that's not the case. I would imagine, though, as the ball kicks off, we feel better about ourselves than they feel about themselves. Because the way they lost that Duke game this past weekend.
That's tough to do.
That's atrocious. Well, and so is the loss to SMU, even with a backup quarterback, because they show some fight, and then their defense lays down. The moment that they get engineer a couple of scoring drives and pick themselves off the mat, you know that they're operating with their hand tied behind their back when they don't have Klubnik. And they're giving you some answers, and the defense is like, no, ole, there's a touchdown. It's unbelievable to watch them in the secondary. Also considering, usually the secondary shuts down when your defensive front or your pass rush stinks.
Right.
They're good.
They're good. They stop the run. They get after the passer. They have talent there. Yes, they do.
It makes no sense. It's like civil war within the defense of trying and non-trying.
What happens with broken programs and infighting and locker rooms that are lost. Shannon Young made the move a while back. I bet he's happy that he did. Going over to Cross Country Mortgage, the nation's largest mortgage company, they have been, and he has been, very successful. And a lot of that is, of course, his hard work and access to be able to serve in 7 different states. And he has better rates, better options, stronger support, and a much quicker response than in days gone by. He is a tireless worker, relentless, goal-oriented, smart guy, die-hard Noel, never misses games, always in town for these things. I've been telling you about him for a while now, and it's paying off because we've had 4 such Noels, or listeners at the very least of the Jeff Cameron Show, that have signed up lately, and we thank all of you. Go to loansfornoles.com to learn more, loansfornoles.com.
Your local news now.
A death investigation is underway in Wakulla County after human remains were discovered on the Appalachian. This is Rachel Lene with Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Daytime highs approaching 80 this afternoon under mainly clear skies, winds out of the south around 5 miles per hour. Mainly clear skies again tonight, lows dip down to about 56. Daytime highs approaching 81 and foggy early tomorrow, sunshine mixed with clouds at times. This report is brought to you by The Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, it's 77 degrees.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Hey, Jeff, what's up, buddy?
I was just thinking, they never tell you that when you grow up, one of the things that you'll miss are the games that you created with your friends in the neighborhood.
Oh, good days.
So I would have my buddy come over, and then we'd make up these games that were kind of like a hodgepodge of every game that you've ever played.
Kind of like the bikes we built.
Correct. Yes. And it's a grand experiment. In the beginning, nobody knows how to play the game, and you argue about what the rules are going to be. And in the end, everybody knows how to play the game. By the end of that summer, you know the rules, the neighborhood know the rules, and you play that game like it's the greatest game ever played.
And you still try to break the rules, right?
Oh, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. But at the end, Eddie, you're never going to play it again, and you'll think about it the rest of your life.
And the best game you ever played was that game.
Never been a better one.
Hey, you want to have a Gordo Smash, Jeff?
I do. I'd like that. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
You know what's interesting about that scenario, Tom, that I was just talking about is that for us, we've kind of gone through all of it, right? We've gone through the pain and suffering and hurt and realization of something that's happening that is inexplicable, or if not inexplicable, tough to wrap your mind around and be frustrated by. And then you have to kind of rationalize, and everybody goes through this. And then eventually you stop rationalizing. You just call it out for what it is. And you say, oh, well, geez, you know, they're just not any good. And he's lost the team. And this is where we're at this year. You know, Clemson's yet to, I think, arrive at that place. They're suspicious. They know something's wrong. Something's rotten in Denmark, obviously. The results tell you that. But you don't want to believe it. And unlike in Mike Norvell's case, the reason you don't want to believe it with Dabo is he was such a part of the fabric of that community with his folksiness and the way that he spoke to them. And while we mocked it, it was embraced by that community. And he won titles, national titles, plural. That it's hard to let that go. It's hard to accept that the same guy that many of them looked up to and believed the same things and wanted to believe was not an actor, playing a role. It's hard when you go through the sinking realization that, the gig is up, time's up. It's true, all things come to an end, but they're much more difficult to wrap your mind around when they've been as not just successful, but as wildly successful as Clemson has under Dabo Swinney. There was a stretch where that was the best program in college football, all of college football, just as we've been before.
Yeah, if I'm them, I'm afraid I'm saying where's the help coming from? Where's the answer where you say, well, wait for that 2023 class. They're going to put it all together, and they're going to be the ones that help take us from the doldrums of when we fell on our all over ourselves a little bit in 24 and 25. But the 2026 season, Dabo's going to get right back on track. I don't know where that's coming from unless he has to hit the portal, which he never wanted to do in the first place. And that was the first sign of trouble for this team this year. They had that much production, and he still broke his own rule and went into the portal to go get some help.
Yeah, the thing of it is, though, I give Clemson a lot of credit because they did a good job of assessing high school talent and bringing it in and developing it. So you would watch kids get better at Clemson year over year. They did a better job of that than we have, certainly, in the last 10 years. They've done a great job with it. And I always gave them credit for that because you could always see it, too. They would play so many guys because they'd be in so many games in which they were up huge. So they could get guys out onto the field and they could expedite the learning curve. And you would see them get these opportunities. So the kids would remain incredibly loyal because they got those chances. And there was something, too, not portaling over somebody. I don't think he was completely wrong about that. If you've got good players that you're developing and you've got a culture that's bought in, I can understand that. I can get down with that. You do need to recruit better to ensure that there's a bounty of players, a bevy of players that are moving up the ladder.
Well, yeah, one would think if you're not going to spend on the portal that you would finish with top 10 classes every single year, and that just has not been the case for Clemson.
Right. So it's fascinating to watch play out. I do think all coaches go through this eventually when the disconnect and the breakdown happens. I also think that it's changing, that it's happening now year over year, and you're watching wild inconsistency infused into programs that used to be able to avoid that sort of up and down existence because you can't stockpile the talent anymore. Everybody has a baseline by which to pay players, and if they've decided that they really want one of the ones that you've got because they need it, and he happens to be a backup where he is, you ain't keeping him. I mean, Georgia's lost a lot of guys that way. So is Alabama. That was unheard of. Back in the 90s, dudes that were backups at Florida State obviously weren't free to just come and go as they please, but they waited their turn. They got into games, and you'd get excited about the future, but you'd see a kid come into the game and you'd go, oh, my God, that kid's going to be a bigger star than the star that's ahead of him who's going to get drafted in the first round. And you would see that they were impervious to these kinds of step backs in production. It's not true anymore for anybody. It's especially not true if you just have a few missteps in vetting a transfer player or a high school player, and all of a sudden some things begin to rot from inside, and now everybody's got the ability to pay. The dispensary of talent, as I've said before, it's unbelievable to watch where all these players go now. Indiana and Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech and these schools that have chances to be top 10 teams in any given year in a way they didn't used to.
Yeah, I think fan bases are just going to have to accept over the next 10 years that you're going to wear it in a year relative to your expectations because that's the nature of college football now. As for Clemson, though, you're starting to see that word, that rot word that you just used on defense. And they're a strange group because you can have the same player deal with two different scenarios and look like two different people. Same jersey number, same name. For example, if you've got a perimeter bubble screen and you're going against Clemson and one of their defensive backs, if the play's in front of them, not only will they make it, they will thunder. They will get downhill and blow your receiver up if you don't bother to block. However, if you've got a quick pass or some kind of swing pass and it's that same defensive back and you have him lined up to block, he's going to catch it and just stand there and get out of your way. Same player. If it's in front of him around the line of scrimmage, he'll get downhill, he'll make it. But if it's at 5 yards depth, 6 yards depth, they will routinely catch blocks, run around blocks, jog. In the case of one of their safeties, Khalil Barnes, number 7, I thought we had jogging last year. I have not seen, and I watched every play of SMU and Duke these last 2 weeks. In those 2 games, that guy will make 1 play out of 10, and you go, well, there it is. There he's getting downhill. And the other ones, he is taking his time. He is in no rush whatsoever. It makes no sense because they show you in flashes that they have all of this ability. They just don't care to use it, which is rot from within. That's what that is.
You know, the problem you have, of course, is when that is recognized on film, it can be tough at field level to get a sense of an effort that's being given or not given by a player. If you're at field level, that can be very difficult to see. But the eye in the sky certainly doesn't lie, and it's not hard to see at all when a guy is or is not giving effort. And what would make it all the more frustrating, and we know this firsthand, is for the coaches to watch that film after a game and still allow that guy to play. And I think more and more you're going to have, and I don't know if that's directly related to the fear that kids can just transfer. So if you get on them in a way that you used to be able to get on them, double middle fingers and they're out the door, maybe. Certainly I think there are coaches on eggshells that wouldn't have been in past years when the options didn't exist for you to leave. But I actually think the approach there as a coach is the opposite. You need to take the opposite approach. Weed out the guys that can't handle tough coaching. Weed out the guys that have a foot out the door the second they're inconvenienced. Weed out the guys that don't want to deal with intense competition year over year because they think they've established something. You can't build a through line of trust and real culture in a locker room when you're walking around on eggshells afraid to coach certain guys a certain way. I'm not saying you can't treat some guys differently than others. All coaches do, and you have to do that in your own work life, in your own household. But there has to be a certain standard that everybody adheres to and is beholden to. And if you don't do that, then you're going to have the inconsistencies of which you speak.
Yeah, it's oversimplified from somebody on the outside, but you would message that to your players if it was me. I'd say, hey, because you can leave at a moment's notice, I'm going to pull you at a moment's notice. I don't have time. I don't have time to waste. If you're going to give me half-assed effort now, I'd rather have somebody that gives me 100% effort and is 80% of the player review, because everybody can play well when times are good. For example, there are 2 plays that you can watch if you wish to go look at the highlights of the SMU or the Duke game. It's 16-14 is the score against SMU. It's third quarter. SMU's moving right to left on your radio dial.
Gene Deckerhoff.
Number 7, deep middle safety. Go ahead and watch the effort.
It's brutal.
Duke game.
I've watched it.
Just before the half, and they score on a shot play up the middle of the field. Take a look at who's in coverage and take a look at the effort. Dude's just standing there. And Dabo dresses him down on the sidelines and the rest of the secondary after that. That's the shot from
footage.
this weekend.
That's the footage, yeah.
It's 28-28 just before halftime, and he's caught on a hot mic as well, yelling at the guys. Guess who starts the third quarter?
By the way, again, I was watching when they took the 28-21 lead. They had flipped the game on its head. Duke was reeling.
Under a minute to go for Duke.
You could see the frustration that Duke had turned it over, had given it up the lead. They had blown their opportunity. They had Clemson on the ropes. They allowed him to get back in, and then not only get back in, but take the lead late. And the thought being, oh, man, it's getting away from us. We don't have the requisite talent to hang with them if we're going to blow our opportunities the way that they had. And when Clemson's down, you woke them up. Except that Clemson gives that touchdown up, and the 2 locker rooms are very different.
You got third downs and fourth downs and penalties, and it sets them up with a prayer, and the prayer was answered on a shot play, yeah.
Hour number 2 forthcoming. Stay with Jeff Cameron, Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV.
Construction Services. T-Spark. T-SparkConstruction.com. We conquer all peaks. We fix those darn leaks. Call 850-766-1340. T-Spark Enterprises. Roofing and construction services. T-Spark. T-SparkConstruction.com.
License number CCC 1331204.
Barry knows cool. He's keeping you comfortable. Barry knows cool. He can put them to the test. Barry knows heating and air conditioning. Keeping you comfortable is what Barry does best.
No matter how busy life gets, your home is the place where your family and friends show you they care and celebrate with you. That's why the professionals at Barano Heating and Air Conditioning always make sure your home is comfortable. Just like those who matter to you most, Barano will always be there for you.
This is Tyler from Barano Heating and Air. Now you can schedule an appointment, purchase or renew your service agreement, or pay your bill from your mobile device. Any day, anytime, anywhere. When you turn to the experts at Carrier and Barano Heating and Air, online at baranoac.com.
Florida license number CAC 1816186.
Barry knows heating and air conditioning.
Tired of spending money on bug spray and inhaling all those fumes every time you want to go outside? Treat your yard so you can stop spraying your kids.
Paul's Termite and Pest Control has a solution to this persistent problem. Paul's has a program which seeks the grounds, flower bed, and shrubs. Paul's controls pesky mosquitoes year-round, which means you can take back control of your yard. Not only are mosquitoes a physical irritation, they also pose a potential health risk to people and pets. With Paul's targeted techniques, you can rest assured that your yard will be protected and your afternoons will stay fun.
Take back your yard. Don't let mosquitoes interrupt the fun. For more information, go to callpauls.com. For the elimination of termites or any other pests.
And a greener lawn, too.
Call Pauls. We'll get them all.
Pauls can help eliminate fire ants from your lawn, too. We'll help you take your yard back.
Pay-per-view fights can ring up big bills, especially since in the Octagon there is one every few weeks. That's why the Seventh Hill Tap Room right downstairs from Corner Pocket Bar and Grill carries every single fight. Plus, unlike most pay-per-view bars, there's no cover charge. And drink specials too, like $3 select domestic beers and more. And if you enjoy international soccer, Seventh Hill opens early. $2 mimosas on Sundays, anyone? The Seventh Hill Tap Room, 2475 Appalachia Parkway, just downstairs from Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3. WVFT, Gretna, Tallahassee.
Your Sports Flash update on Real Talk 93.3 in Tallahassee.
Jacksonville Jaguars involved in the NFL trade deadline. They have acquired Jacoby Myers from the Las Vegas Raiders in exchange for a 4th and 6th round selection in the 2026 NFL Draft. Myers had made it very clear that he no longer wanted to be with the Raiders, and now he comes in and should be able to add to the Jaguars offense. However, they're not going to have Travis Hunter for a while. He has been placed on injured reserve, and he's going to miss the next month. Jaguars getting ready for a game against Houston coming up on Sunday. Also this weekend, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they play New England, and the Miami Dolphins on Sunday will host the Buffalo Bills. This Sports Flash is presented by Progressive. Bundle auto and home, renters, or condo insurance and save with Progressive. I'm Matt Pauley on Real Talk 93.3.
Craving something different? Discover the bold and surprising flavors of Peru at Café de Martín. From sizzling lomo saltado to savory handmade empanadas, every dish is made with heart, history, and soul. Crafted by classically trained Chef Martín himself. It's not just food. It's a trip to Peru without the plane ticket. Swing by Café de Martín today and taste the tradition. Café de Martín, authentic Peruvian, right around the corner.
It's where you raise your kids, where friends become family, where every corner has a story worth telling. It's your neighborhood. At ABC 27, we share those stories, bringing you news that connects communities, builds pride, and reminds us we're part of something bigger. We are ABC 27, in your neighborhood.
T-Spark Enterprises, roofing and construction services. T-Spark Construction.com. We conquer all peaks. We fix those darn leaks. Call 850-766-1340. T-Spark Enterprises, roofing and construction services. T-Spark Construction.com.
License number CCC 1331204.
Pay-per-view fights can ring up big bills, especially since in the Octagon there is one every few weeks. That's why the Seventh Hill Tap Room right downstairs from Corner Pocket Bar and Grill carries every single fight. Plus, unlike most pay-per-view bars, there's no cover charge. And drink specials too, like $3 select domestic beers and more. And if you enjoy international soccer, Seventh Hill opens early. $2 mimosas on Sundays, anyone? The Seventh Hill Tap Room, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Just downstairs from Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
Hey everybody, this is Greg Tish, and I want to personally invite you to join us each and every weekday morning right here on Real Talk 93.3 for the Greg Tish Show. We have the best guests in Tallahassee. We play the funnest games like Give Me a Second, the movie clip game, and everybody loves a food segment every weekday morning at 6:45. So start your day with Tallahassee's morning show, the Greg Tish Show, right here on Real Talk 93.3.
Sunday, Ray J will be rocking. Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers are back from the bye, refreshed and ready for a rumble with Drake May and the powerful Patriots.
It's a caught ball! Touchdown Tampa Bay! Touchdown Buccaneers! It's Tez Johnson! Touchdown Buccaneers!
Pre-game at noon, kickoff at 1.
What a throw by Baker Mayfield!
Hear it live on the Buccaneers Radio Network.
Tallahassee's home for Tampa Bay Bucs football. Real Talk 93.3.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You guys know how I am, like the cold weather. Got an indicator that we may be setting freaking records up here. Gotta maybe watch the games outside, Tom. Little 10-day forecast has us doing some crazy things in the days to come. I'm seeing as low as 28 on a Monday in Tallahassee. Might it snow in November? That's something to celebrate, buddy. Thanks for supporting us at 93.3 FM, Real Talk, only locally owned and operated radio station in all of Tallahassee.
Welcome to fire pit season, buddy.
Well, you got a 47-28 day, a 51-36, a 66-36, all next week. Let's get it on. Unfortunately, it warms up by the time we have another home game. I think it'll be in the 60s, but 40s if we can, second half maybe. I'm all in. Little Ball State money line tonight. If you need the juices. I just looked up something, and I was curious. You know how we both lament the fact that, damn it, man, Ohio State just never has a bad year? That they're the model of consistency, and it's frustrating because everybody else has their ups and downs, but Ohio State's down is like a 9-3 season or something weird, like 10-2. It's like they're never this. They're never this. They're not doing what Clemson's doing, but we just don't see it.
My whole adult life.
It's nuts. Well, you should know It's not a mirage. Ryan Day's record against unranked opponents is 53-1. 53-1.
Oh, man.
So you know how we lose to people that are unranked all the time? And now other people do it too. Clemson's doing it. Others are doing it. Not that dude. 53-1, buddy. Ain't happening. If you look at the docket and you see Ohio State's playing an unranked team, you're good to go.
So it was Michigan last year? That's it?
Yeah. That has to be it.
Wow.
It's crazy to think about. By the way, we got screwed a little bit here. Indiana Penn State could have been. It may still be a humdinger, but the slate's a little lacking this weekend. Like Florida State Clemson should have been great. Indiana Penn State could have been great. LSU Alabama could have been. All the woulda, coulda, shouldas of this weekend. This had the makings of a little bit of a park your ass preseason.
It did. I think it still could be specifically for LSU Alabama. Not that we're going to be able to watch it. It'll be on TV Bravo. But if they care to rally around the interim staff at LSU, that defense is for real. You could be looking at a 13-10 game at halftime, and you go, okay, I see what's going on over there.
Well, you just said it last hour. In fairness, they may be inspired by the fact that the jerk has been told to leave town.
You're spoiled.
I mean, it may be that it may be that you're like, those kids start playing to their ability and they have a lot of it. They're like, oh, we got this ass face out of town. Here we go.
Well, that would be on the offensive side of the ball, right?
Just period.
You would feel
just
as
everybody feels liberated
because the defense had played hard for a long, long time this season, but the offense was stuck in second gear.
Yeah, it's hard to gauge those games. You know, that game's 7:30 ABC.
Yeah, they could have their feet up in the rocking chair and Alabama just rolls. So it's hard to know. Did you make anything out of the first rankings other than that they mirror the AP poll? I will tell you that there's no need for a committee. They need to stop with this nonsense where we all get to eat very expensive dinners as we gather. Comparing notes. What notes? What, the AP vote? Is that the note that you're comparing? The guy next to you? While charging these meals to somebody else? Pretending as if you're doing the hard work of digging deep, diving in, looking at the numbers, going back, perusing games that you may have missed, watching the all 22s to get a real sense of what happened there. None of it's happening. They're lying to you. They're like most every other committee. Just nonsense. Could you rewind that replay? I'm enjoying my my brie stuffed pheasant. I need to see that replay one more time.
Brie stuffed. That sounds awful.
It sounds like something a university
it's
president.
A stuffed pheasant with brie. What?
Right. Yeah, it sounds like something that a university president and a former politician would enjoy.
Loving this brie stuffed pheasant. That's ridiculous. Yeah, so that's, but they don't do anything.
Pass the Bordeaux, please.
They don't do anything. They're not doing. It's silliness. If you really wanted to go through this and talk about what's what, and we don't spend a lot of time on it because we always laugh at it. But wouldn't you ask yourself, why would Notre Dame be in a playoff if it started today? Ask yourself that question. Why would Notre Dame be in a playoff if it started today?
The helmet.
They beat Southern Cal at Notre Dame. They have no other win of any significance. They have 2 losses. One of those losses at the time didn't appear to be that big a deal. Now you're kind of like, that ain't good. You lost to Miami. You have no real good wins other than the Southern Cal win, which is a good win. You won that one at Notre Dame.
They are a top 25 team.
I'm saying that's okay. You struggled, really struggled last week with Boston College. Boston College has 1 win, kids. That game was a 1-possession game late into the second half. Notre Dame was coming off a bye. Why would they be in the playoff if it started today? again, this is the kind of stuff. But they're just going to mirror the AP and be like, oh, well, you know.
That's right. I mean, they're a top 10 team.
That you could argue like you can with a lot of teams. And I just think we're going to have to get further and further removed from the mindset. We've talked about it for years, even before a 12-team playoff, even before committees and everything else that we're impugning now. The preseason rankings do a disservice to the real resumes of the teams. And they end up, I think, infiltrating the mindset of people who have real say in the voting. And they just assume, well, I guess Notre Dame is good. Well, maybe, but the resume says they're not good so far. They could be very good. We'll see by season's end. They've got a chance to win some more games that would tell you that. They just haven't yet. So why don't we not put them in the top 10?
Just disrespecting Virginia left and right, man.
Well, I will say, I think the committee told you last night that the ACC sucks if you needed them to. They're letting you know that it's a one-bid league.
That they believe that the ACC is,
I do too. I think it sucks. But I would say that, yes, they're telling you what they did last night was if I recall correctly, didn't this same thing happen last year when we saw the first poll come out and we went, ooh, good God, they're telling you they think the Big 12 is awful.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I remember it. They thought the Big 12 was awful. I'm not sure they were wrong, but that's what they thought. And their first poll told you that, And I think this first poll is telling you that they think.
Yeah, they think the Big 12 is better than the ACC. I don't know. I don't know about that at all. That's the motto for college football 2025 season. I don't know. Not so sure.
Well, I'm not so sure either. I don't think either league is good.
Yeah, nobody's good. You've got a couple good teams, and everybody's kind of the same when you're talking about top 15, top 20. I think it's about sequencing. It's about home away, attrition, fumble luck, turnover luck. All these games are within the margin. All of them.
Yeah. We agree and disagree a little bit here. I think the league is having a rough go. That Virginia team, that's not a good look.
They won their 50-50s. It's a whole bunch of coin tosses, and it's like who wins the most coin tosses is the one that by default has to sit on top.
Yeah, they do, but when you're winning 50-50s against North Carolina, Washington State.
Hey, Ole Miss barely beat Washington State. That was a game deep into the second half.
The good news is Ole Miss has some significant wins, and Virginia does not. So when we go through this, we don't get the opportunities because the league isn't good to get these significant wins. Like the team that the ACC needed to do the right thing was the team that started well, which was Miami.
Yeah, or us.
Well, we haven't fulfilled our role.
I mean, their second best is capable of getting smoked by us. It is within the margins.
Yes. I think we know what would happen if they played today. Teams get better or worse as the season goes on. I would say that
one could argue Miami had an easier time with Florida than Georgia did.
One could. Unfortunately, Miami turned around and got worse and lost to SMU
because it's all within the margins. It's all a stew of mediocrity outside of a couple of teams. I think. I've got compelling evidence to that end.
All right. You watch these games, Tom. You have a discerning view. I know you don't think the ACC is as good as the SEC. That's not the argument you're making, and I know you don't believe that.
No, the argument I'm making is the second tier of the SEC is about the same as the whole of the ACC. Now, the top tier of the SEC is tucked away in the top four.
Right. Much better.
But once you get to that second tier of the SEC, if you put Ole Miss on a field with Georgia Tech or Virginia or Pitt or Louisville on a given weekend, I'm not so sure I know the result of that game. I think you're arguing that Ole Miss is going to win that game.
What I'm saying is the week-to-week test in the SEC is much more difficult, and therefore I would give kudos to a team like Ole Miss who has some significant wins under their belt, and they have to do it more frequently. You're right. In a one-off situation, would Louisville and Ole Miss be a good game? Yeah, I'd like to see that game played. You're right. I'm not sure who's going to win that game. But I think that what the committee's telling you is they don't think as a league, this league is any good. And
they are 100%. They are. Yes.
And I think they're right.
That's where we disagree. I think it's all the same. Once you get to 5 and 6, I think it's all 6-1.
Yeah.
I mean, Florida is a great barometer for this year. I think Florida is a great team that helps tell that story. What they did with Miami, that they lost, that they were capable of losing to USF, that they can hang with Georgia, that they can hang with LSU.
Well, they hung with Miami. And, they have talent. Like, watching them, they're talented.
Right.
I mean, they had to fire their coach, who's not winning enough with said talent.
But thankfully, for once, they've scheduled enough different teams from different conferences that they are kind of a storyteller of how week to week, it doesn't matter that extra, you've got your manufacturer, your Adidas, your Nike, but that other patch, it's not that much of a difference maker just by showing up anymore.
No, but you would agree the top 4 in the SEC are a bit of a different animal.
I think the top 2 or 3 are, sure.
I mean, A&M is, I think Georgia has to continue to be viewed as gettable, especially now compared to the other Georgia teams.
Yeah, and I'm going to do something the committee can. I'm going to piece that with last year and take a look at that Tech game and bridge it with some of the games that I don't know how they beat Tennessee, and the Auburn game was dicey. The Florida game was dicey. So they're gettable. I don't know that I would put them in that A&M tier.
I think Texas A&M is the best team in the SEC. We agree on that. But if we're going to argue about if they're good or not, Georgia has they're good.
Mm-hmm.
Their lone loss is a 3-point loss to Alabama. From there, obviously, they've had some close calls, but unfortunately for all of us that are tired of seeing Georgia win, they always win the close calls.
Yeah,
they win those games. They are tough. The point I was making wasn't that there aren't fallible teams in the SEC or the Big Ten. I actually think the Big Ten, you never hear this out of me. I think the Big Ten, upper echelon of the Big Ten anyhow, is a little bit better than I would have thought coming into the season. I think Indiana is better than I thought Indiana was going to be. I think that's inarguable. Ohio State is really, really good.
They're getting better. They could have been had earlier, and it seems like it might be turning into something else.
Agreed, unfortunately. I don't know about Oregon, but they're going to have to play Iowa, who I think is pretty good right now, and Washington. So we'll get to see a little bit about what they are. But I would, because Southern Cal is back to being good, or at least pretty good, all of a sudden you would say about the Big Ten, and not that it's elite, but you would say Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, Iowa, Southern Cal, to a lesser degree Michigan, I suppose. They are 5-1 in conference. That's a little deeper than they've been, in my opinion. There's a little something there.
Well,
now, from there, I would even go as far down as Washington. I wouldn't with Minnesota, Northwestern, and some of the other middling teams. A disappointing team out of the Big Ten that was preseason ranked high as Illinois. So it starts to get fuzzy. But that upper part, I think, is pretty good.
I mean, there's a real shot that you're looking at the Big Ten championship game being 1 versus 2. Number 1 versus number 2.
Right, yeah.
Which is wild, because you would have said before the season, well, who outside of Ohio State? Indiana can't do it again. Oh, yes, they can. And they're doing it right now.
That is actually the story of our time. That despite the constant discussions that we have, understandably so, as football fans, we're all wrapping our mind around what college football is now compared to what it was, say, 8 years ago, 12 years ago, certainly 25 years ago. We are now in a place where all of our conventional wisdoms are challenged on a weekly basis. And I concur. I mean, it can lead to some of these falsehoods where you're like, oh, I'm going to assume that Michigan wins. Well, no, let's see. They did lose 5 times a year after they won the national title. I'm with you on that. But where I'm concerned is that because I don't think this is going to be, and it's not going to finish this way, because the ACC is not a great league and we are a middling to below average bunch in a bad league, that maybe we're worse off than we even realize. And that is a sobering thought. Now, you would counter, I'm not saying you specifically, with, well, they beat Alabama and they beat LSU before that. Yep, we do have a way of getting up for some big games against an SEC team early in the season. If you're the SEC, do not schedule us early.
Yeah, I mean, we've won 2 conference games since the beginning of last year.
But if you're an ACC team, be excited we're on your schedule.
Yeah, 100%. Home or away. It don't matter.
Doesn't matter. It's
well, that's the stoppable force and the movable object. Clemson beating power-ranked teams at home, and we haven't won an ACC game on the road since, what was our last road game in 23? That was it. Was that Pitt? And that was lucky.
Well, it was a toughie.
Thanks to Fentrell Cypress.
Who was underwhelming? but
He
made
was,
a, but
no.
made, but
And
made
he
a
got
hell of
burned
a
on that play, I think, too.
No, he actually was helping somebody who else.
Was it
somebody
the
else
safety's
did.
responsibility?
I think it was the safety's responsibility, if I remember correctly. But he didn't quit on the play, and I remember, all right, there you go. That's good.
That
Yeah.
increased our win share.
Yes, it certainly did. Jim Phillips is already upset, fearful, in a constant state of panic. But watching Miami lose to SMU had to have been the moment where he went, oh, man.
That's a tough loss.
I mean, God, dog, guys. Because I think we would agree to a large extent, Virginia's been the luckiest team I've ever seen. Like, I don't think they're very good.
Their quarterback being hurt has really diminished their window value. What do you call it? Storefront value?
Yeah.
Window shopping. They don't look very nice anymore with the quarterback who's banged up. They need him to be healthy.
They sure do, because they look like ass every week I watch them now. And I get mad thinking about us losing to them.
Well, we found a way that night in situations.
It's just, damn it, man.
Like the Pitt one was more resounding. You could talk yourself into that one, but you're up by 3 to start the second half. But we all know that touchdown to Landon Thomas was a prayer.
Oh, it was a stupid throw, and it was a complete prayer. And yeah,
given the situation, it's an idiotic throw. But then you score with Danzy to bridge that gap, and then you put yourself in a position for an onside kick. Like that in the Miami game, you lost those 2 games straight up. The Virginia game, you feel, ugh, and the Stanford game, you just put your head between your knees.
Well, and the Pitt quarterback of which you speak, they haven't lost a game since he started.
Yeah.
So they became a completely different team once they benched what's-his-face.
I didn't remember his name. Yeah,
he sucked. But, yeah, they became
Alabama guy, right?
They became a completely different team. Yeah, he was a transfer. Holstein or whatever.
Yeah, Eli Holstein.
Whatever the hell his name was. I remember thinking it was like a cow.
Moosteen?
It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Feeling sluggish? Wake up your body the right way with Vigor. The all-new Vigor Cold Plunge Tub from Hot Spring Spas is now available exclusively at Pinch a Penny Pools and Spas in Tallahassee. Boost circulation, reduce inflammation, sharpen your focus, and more. Elite athletes do it daily, and now you can too. Experience the power of cold therapy in your own home. Come see the Vigor Cold Plunge, available only at Pinch a Penny on Capitol Circle Northeast and Greer Road.
Can we talk about the most important things in your life, your family, your friends, your home, and enjoying the time you spend together? You sure don't want to have to think about whether everybody's going to be comfortable. You want Tony Kelly to make sure everybody's comfortable. That's what Tony Kelly does, and that's what's most important for the entire Tony Kelly team. Their prompt, professional service and attention to detail, they're famous for it. Focus on what's most important to you and let Tony Kelly Heating and Air keep everybody comfortable.
Stay comfortable and stay focused on the most important things with Tony Kelly Heating and Air, committed to serving you and your family with exceptional service, skilled technicians, and reliable, high-quality work. Go to TonyKellyInc.com to find their full range of HVAC services, including repairs, installations, inspections, and maintenance. TonyKellyInc.com or call 850-385-3774.
Parker Services, comfort's just a call away.
222-7722. AC and electric is what we do. Service, repairs, and installation too.
222-7722. Parker Services, comfort's just a call away. Parker Services, comfort's just a call away.
Fall is here, and that means it's time to make sure your home is ready for the season ahead. At Parker Services AC and Electrical, a peak performance membership keeps your comfort systems running at their best year-round. Members enjoy priority scheduling, exclusive discounts, and seasonal tune-ups that help identify small problems before they turn into big repairs. Don't wait until your heater has issues. Call Parker Services today and ask about peak performance membership.
Parker Services, comfort's just a call away.
License number CMC 050334, EC130124140.
Your business doesn't stop, and neither does IOI's.
From the trusted owners of Mac & More Systems, IOIs offers 24/7 IT support, cybersecurity monitoring, HIPAA and compliance consulting, cloud data management, phone systems, and full network design and security. For healthcare, finance, legal industries, IOI specializes in keeping sensitive industries protected and connected. Local service, major protection. Visit IOIs.com today and discover why smart businesses trust IOIs.
Games for Less, Tallahassee's largest selection of new and used games, as well as new and used consoles like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Atari 2600, PS4, and PS5. You name it. Locally owned and operated since 1994, trade-ins are not only welcome, but Games for Less pays more for your trade-ins than the big chain stores. That's not all. Games for Less now buys and sells new and used vinyl records to boot. George loves the Beatles, by the way. Reserve all the new releases today at Games for Less, conveniently located in the Walmart Supercenter Plaza on Appalachian Parkway.
From the championship stage to coaching change and everything in between, Warchant.com remains your home for the best FSU football coverage in the business. Brutally honest columns and features, market-leading multimedia presence across video and podcast, the largest FSU fan community with a staff that combines for over 100 years of experience covering the Noles. When change comes, Warchant.com is your home for analysis from every angle. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Sign up today.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Taylor Swift, wouldn't you say Notre Dame has gotten better since starting 0-2? That was their quarterback's first two starts, unlike Miami, whose starter is getting worse. Well, I think Miami's starter is getting worse, and they're playing worse. That is fair. With Notre Dame, I'd hesitate, only because they've beaten one ranked team since those two games against ranked teams that they lost. That team was Southern Cal. They won that game at home 34-24. Boise State's not a good win. Boise State now has 3 losses and just got blown out by Fresno State. That's not a great win. Purdue is god-awful. Arkansas is god-awful. NC State, they dominated. They hosted that game, so I'll give them a little credit for dominating that game. And they struggled with Boston College. I don't know. I don't think they're that much better.
Oddly enough, yeah, the feathers you would put in their cap are that they smoked Arkansas and they smoked NC State, which has been difficult to do for teams within those two relative conferences. SEC teams have had a real hard time with Arkansas, even though the Hogs don't have a conference win. They play in a lot of close games in that conference with everybody. And same thing with NC State. NC State has been very difficult to beat if they didn't beat you outright in ACC play.
They got beat by 20 by Pitt, though, who I think is a good team.
Yeah, Pitt. Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's kind of interesting. We'll see. That Pitt team could be that could be really interesting when they play Notre Dame. There's your game.
Yeah, that's a playoff game.
That game is going to be worth your time. Like, legitimately, you, me, people who love football. Let's watch that game. That'll be a battle of two ranked teams. It'll be on the ACC network. The game is Pitt is hosting.
It's noon, right?
It's rare that they get to host a game that is seemingly of great significance that the nation might be interested in. Notre Dame brings that nation tag to it. So, that will be fun.
We get to watch the whole thing, too, because we have the primetime kick. Real quick, here's Arkansas' season, their losses. So they lost to Ole Miss 41-35. Remember that? That was a fourth-down conversion late that didn't go their way. Memphis, they lost 32-31. Notre Dame beat the tar out of them, as you documented. Tennessee, Arkansas loses 34-31.
Mm-hmm.
A&M, Arkansas loses 45-42 to A&M. Auburn.
Who's really good, by the way. I think A&M, if you watch, one of the things about A&M is this is the whole thing that I lament when I watch us is Mike didn't do a good enough job recruiting offensive linemen. I mean, this line is better than average. It was all transfers, and it's it's more than slightly above serviceable. A&M's offensive line is a bunch of bad bitches, and that's a different looking group right there. Anyhow, go ahead.
Auburn, they lose by 9, and Mississippi State, they lose by 3. Now, I know that the tiers drop in terms of the competition level when you face Auburn and Mississippi State, but they have 3 conference losses by 3 points and 4 by 1 score in their 0-5 start for Arkansas. So Notre Dame beating the brakes off of them is actually, relative to what they've done in the conference, kind of impressive.
Yeah, I gave him credit. I mean, it's a whatever it is, it's 6-7 loss Arkansas team, but yes, you get credit for it. You know what's fascinating? You can make a case for Coach Lebby as being quietly one of the better coaches in college football this year. If you read the preseason mags, which means you're old school like me, and you did, or you took the time to take a cursory glance at the projected standings for whatever that's worth across all leagues, you know that Mississippi State was considered to be one of the worst teams in college football coming into the year. And Mississippi State lost by 7 points to Tennessee. They did get housed by A&M on the road, who's very good. But they lost by 2 points to Florida in Gainesville. We all saw that game. They could have won that game. And they lost by 7 to Texas. And if Texas doesn't get a punt return late in that game, they're going to beat Texas. And, of course, you just mentioned Arkansas gives people trouble, and they went to Arkansas and won the game. They have 5 wins on the year, including a win over Arizona State, and some real narrow losses in the SEC. This was a program defined by being nothing more than butt cheeks. And that guy has gone in there and done a job now.
Well, it goes to show you that in that particular conference, I think this makes the argument for mediocrity, is we just talked about Arkansas averaging a defeat by 4 points over the course of 5 losses. Mississippi State has 1 conference win. So they are 1-9 in their conference games, and yet they're hanging with the top 3 or 4 in their conference routinely. Like, it's not a fluke. It wasn't like, well, that 1 week it was a look ahead and when they were taking on Mississippi State. Mississippi State's hanging with people. Arkansas is taking people down to the wire as well.
They're 1-4 in their conference games.
Yeah, I'm saying those 2 teams combined are 1-9. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think Mississippi State's terrible. I think they're going to get the credit they deserve. I don't think they're terrible. It's been impressive. Like the team that you look at where you're like, oh, man, tough times. I don't think they're very good. It's Kentucky. I know they just beat Auburn, and it was 10-3, and it's Kentucky. Oof. They're 1-5 in conference, and it ain't good, man. I mean, they're steady out here taking beatings.
Yeah, South Carolina beat them into the ground. Georgia
and
did.
South Carolina sucks.
Went to overtime with Texas.
They gave up 56 to Tennessee.
They hung in there with Ole Miss. They only lost by 7. But, yeah, they did give up 56 to Tennessee.
Yeah, this has been a rough go. A rough go. Mark needed to find a way out some time ago.
That game is opposite ours. So you got Florida, Kentucky Saturday night. That one's a 7:30 kick on SEC.
There was a time where we would get excited about Florida, Kentucky, because Mark had got him back to the place where you could see Kentucky give it to Florida.
Shoot. Yeah, that would be about the time that we're playing Clemson in prime time. You'd have both those games. I'm like, oh, man, that's too bad. I'm going to miss Florida, Kentucky. Now they're both on in the same prime time slot, and you go, new coaches. Could be 4 of them.
I think ultimately what we're all secretly loathing, no matter where you stand on this, we're loathing the idea that it looks to me like Ohio State's getting better every week.
That was a good win over Penn State. That was the way it looked. Saying is coming together.
Well, that's the problem, because he didn't look great early in the season. It looked like they were hiding him early in the season because they knew they had the best defense in college football, and they felt, the whole thing. But now he's getting better, and they figured out what he can do, and he's got, he's loaded with players. I mean, this is
it could be massive Heisman implications for a Big Ten championship with Indiana, Ohio State, Mendoza, and Sayin.
Wouldn't you just at this point, all of us in college football, are we rooting for Indiana to win the national title?
Yeah, absolutely. Giddy up.
You said that before I finished the sentence.
Yeah. Set it all on fire. Let's get rid of these preconceived notions about who can win where and what conference. Let's do it. Burn it to the ground. Indiana would have the biggest torch of them all.
Well, they would, and the problem is they are in the Big Ten, the richest of all the conferences. But
it would be like Virginia playing for the national title. Indiana.
Oh, it would be better than that. Virginia's had moments in time, not a lot, but they have, where they had competitive teams, and back in the 80s, early 90s, it's a couple teams, couple touchdowns.
Yeah, Kentucky's a good team. Couple touchdowns, probably.
No, I mean it's been a minute, but yeah, Indiana never in their history until recently. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
This is meteorologist Paul Frobley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. High of 80 this afternoon. Under sunny skies, southerly winds around 5 miles per hour. Mainly clear tonight, lows around 56. High of 81 tomorrow, partly cloudy. Daytime highs approaching 81 Friday under mainly sunny skies. 82 Saturday, slight chance of thunderstorms. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Currently, it's 78 degrees.
I got some pretty spooky news from my Paul's termite and pest control technician the other day. It turns out that I'm sharing my home with Formosan termites. Those little monsters do damage about 4 times faster than the regular termites. Fortunately, Paul's discovered them on a routine general pest service, and they've already turned the Formosans back using an amazing treatment called Centricon.
Paul's was the first to introduce the Centricon termite colony elimination system to North Florida and is the leader in this non-invasive treatment. Instead of dumping gallons and gallons of harsh chemicals into our soil, Centricon uses environmentally sensitive treatments loaded in bait stations. These stations are placed around the home. Termites are present, they feed, and take it back to the colony, which is then destroyed. To learn more about Centricon and a free consultation, go to callpauls.com for the elimination of termite or any other pest.
And a greener lawn, too.
Call Paul's. We'll get them all.
And here come the leaves, thousands of them, falling fast, covering every inch of the yard. But wait, who's this rushing in? It's the Lawn Johns with the ultimate fall cleanup blitz. From clearing leaves to fresh pine straw and mulch, the Lawn Johns dominate the field, your yard, so you can focus on what matters. Grilling, chilling, and cheering on your team. Don't let leaves sack your game day fun. Call the Lawn Johns today and win the battle of the backyard. The Lawn Johns, your lawn, our game.
Hey, Jeff, what's up, buddy?
I was just thinking, they never tell you that when you grow up, one of the things that you'll miss are the games that you created with your friends in the neighborhood.
Oh, good days.
So I would have my buddy come over, and then we'd make up these games that were kind of like a hodgepodge of every game that you've ever played.
Kind of like the bikes we built.
Correct. Yes. And it's a grand experiment. In the beginning, nobody knows how to play the game, and you argue about what the rules are going to be. And in the end, everybody knows how to play the game. By the end of that summer, you know the rules, the neighborhood know the rules, and you play that game like it's the greatest game ever played.
And they still try to break the rules, right?
Oh, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. But at the end, Eddie, you're never going to play it again, and you'll think about it the rest of your life.
And the best game you ever played was that game.
Never been a better one.
Hey, you want to have a Gordo Smash, Jeff?
I do. I'd like that.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Really quick, a ribbon on that very quickly. It's funny. In 1989, I was a senior in high school, and George Welsh was the head coach at Virginia, Tom. Virginia won 10 games that year, and they played a game against Georgia Tech, in which both teams were ranked in the top 10, and it felt like the biggest deal in the world. Now, you were 3. You were 3, and I am reminded again of our age difference, sir.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, that was something. That's all I meant about Virginia's had a couple of moments. George Welsh was a good coach. He had something like 10 straight years where they won at least 7 or 8 games. Like they were good. It's relative.
They took pride in the Jefferson part of the Jefferson Epps Trophy, which unfortunately they retained this year.
Well, we hadn't joined the ACC yet, so that was
we were still thinking about it.
It was not the big to-do that it is now. Like we all lose sleep the night before the Jefferson Epps. But back then, Tom, nobody really paid much attention to the Jefferson Epps. question was during the break there that I caught up on the chat. When do we see FSU win a national title again? Noel Gal, I don't know. I think it's getting harder. I used to say with conviction that, and I mean before 2013 happened, that we would bounce right back. That when Bowden was sadly at the end of his time, legendary career at Florida State, that because we were in a talent-rich region of the country, just fertile recruiting grounds in a way that so many other states are not, or programs are not in other states, I should say, in the way things operated then, you just needed a spark. And Jimbo, who we talked about, when he came over from LSU, it wasn't just that he got the good fortune of being on the staff to see what was wrong from the inside, and then later becoming the head coach and waiting where he could take advantage of the rules and get out on the road and do things that as a head coach you wouldn't have been able to do. So he had a lot of built-in advantages. But remember, he set an SEC scoring record as the offensive coordinator at LSU under Nick Saban when they won the national championship. So Jimbo was accomplished, and we talked to Jimbo the day he got the job. I remember being very excited about it. I was an advocate for Jimbo Fisher before he was ever named a candidate for the job. As wrong as I was about Willie was as right as I was about Jimbo. That's the way that works. People forget all of these things. It's okay. I've been terribly wrong and terribly right. But that said, there were a lot of things there that I thought would work. Now, it's hard to predict, hey, that guy's going to win a national championship. But he certainly understood the modern way in which teams were built and practiced, most importantly. And we had an archaic way of practicing. And that was the first thing he did, was come in and change all of that, a radical difference. And then he took a very aggressive approach to recruiting and assessing. He really put it all on his shoulders. He surrounded himself with guys that could recruit in due time. And he really, we watched it happen, Tom, became worn to the frazzle. He was a guy that was having to do everything for a time there from a coaching standpoint. But he told his crew, go out and get me grown-ass men. I'll close the deal, and I'll coach them up. You just get them to me.
Yeah, those pressers in 2011 and 2012, the football season-only ones, obviously had a lot of heavy stuff going on away from the football field at that time with his son. But my man was burning the candle at seven ends. He was exhausted.
Yeah, because he was trying to get a program off the ground that had been slowly worn to a place that was not competitive.
Yeah.
Well, not competitive if you're trying to win a national title. 7-6, 6-6 regular seasons are not competitive when you're trying to win the national title. So, yeah, and it quickly turned around. And I still think it remains to be it's a huge deal that happened, because it proved you could win here without a legend, without an icon, without somebody who, certainly got his just due, but you needed to know that we weren't a one-coach program. And so Jimbo helped do that. The problem is that ended poorly for a lot of reasons that are well documented. We've talked about it ad nauseum. And now football's changed so much, predicting what it takes to get back to that has never been more difficult. It is not as simple as taking advantage of the recruiting-rich area in which you reside. It's not as simple as finding an iconic coach who strikes the right notes. There's much more in the way of complicated details that have to be taken care of in a way that didn't exist before. And I think that we're finding the power programs in college football are struggling year over year to remain consistent. There are exceptions. People can point to the outlier that is Ohio State, who seems to be the only one, and maybe Georgia. But Georgia, as we just said, their stranglehold on that kind of consistency is tenuous in a way that it hasn't been, because you can't stockpile great backups in the way that you used to. Alabama's certainly not what they were. Nobody would be when Nick Saban walked away, and Alabama's still great. They're still invested. They're still going to be good every year for the most part, but they're fallible in a way that they weren't. And really everybody else after that is just kind of, any given year, you'll identify a team that has it working, that has a real buy-in, that has a connection. Maybe it's the quarterback. Maybe it's that particular group that you get in a given year, and every year is unto itself in the way that it is in, say, baseball or basketball. And people will note that. They'll say, well, we were lucky. We had, We had Trent. Trent made everything work for us. He was strong. He was galvanizing. He had good players around him. But Trent was what made that team go, and they might have won the national championship had they been given the opportunity. We talked about that. But if you don't have a guy like that in a given year, or you don't strike the right balance and the right chemistry in a transfer-rich era, an NIL era where things are transactional and it is about money a lot of times and not culture, let's say, or it's harder to build that culture, then, you're going to see a season that was once promising go downhill very quickly, and then perhaps the following year become the thing that you were hoping it would be the year that it wasn't.
Yeah, I was talking to my dad last night about Florida State situation for the first time in weeks, maybe about a month. And he said, Tommy, if we understand that players can move at their beck and call, at their whim, that they can just choose to move on from place to place, and that the new reality of college football is for drastic swings within one program, not just at the top of the standings, but within one program, do you think more about keeping a guy like a Mike Norvell because that's the new reality that we're living in?
No,
and
I don't keep Mike Norvell.
That was me. That was my role on the phone. I said, hey, man, you make salient points, sir.
Yeah.
If our ACC record didn't feature 2 wins over the last 1.5 ACC campaigns, if we had 7 wins and we just weren't pushing over the top, very, very different conversation. But I think, let's just say that we return to that place here next year with the new guy. And there are some swings in performances where you get a 10-2 and a 8-4.
Yeah, you're going to be apt to hold on, of course.
I think in that instance, you're going to have to train yourself to be a little bit more patient, because some years these coin flips are not going to go your way. Much like I was saying the other day, that I almost am looking at programs like where Florida State is right now, the whole of the ACC, to your point. It's like those teams in the NFL that could go 10-6 back in a 16-game schedule if everything goes their way, or they could go 5-11 if nothing goes their way. But they're all the same kind of talented level of a team. You've got those ones that are going to go 13-3 and be the number 1 seed in the NFC or the AFC. But these other teams that fill out a playoff profile, man, a lot of that is turnover luck and attrition and timing of games and all that kind of stuff. And if you're not one of the teams at the top of the pyramid, I think the rest of them are a bunch of coin flips, and we're just going to have to kind of get used to that. And you're going to have to find the coach who can win on the margins, and the smallest of margins, so that if you have 5 coin flip games in a year, you win 3 or 4 of them most seasons. It's not as college football used to be, where you're just trying to shoot the moon and play for perfect every year.
Well, certainly, I think this is where we get into your coaching acumen. Game day decisions, in-game decisions are going to really be hyper-analyzed. Like, are you a great X's and O's game manager? Do you understand situational football, all those sorts of things? Because your talent differential is not going to be as great as it once was. When you were a loaded team, you were too loaded to fail. Back in the day, you couldn't. You could play your worst game and you'd win by 4 touchdowns oftentimes in the ACC, at least early on for Florida State. That's the way it was. You're just too good, too big, too strong, too fast. You could not F it up no matter how bad you played. Now everybody can F it up because the talent differential isn't that great. There are programs that are still consistently better than others, and those that are committed to bringing in more talent.
And Miami's one of them with the talent and the acquisition. But they unfortunately
their coach costs them.
They've got the Usain Bolt of this race between talent and game day management.
Well, they're 4-9 in November under him with these opportunities to finally jump forward, and they have a great roster talent-wise, a very good roster. And they've spent
and a very expensive
more
roster.
than most. And that's the problem, right? They were trying to Mario-proof the roster. This whole cristoballing thing, it's like, man, he proves resilient. We have the ability to put talent all over that field, and you still find a way to F it up. You are a wonder, sir. But you know what's weird with Miami in that situation with SMU, and you see this week to week, and again, I think we're trying to get to the bottom of this with all programs. I do think coaches are struggling to create a carryover year-to-year culture because of all of the transactions that we see in the game now. I know Saban would highlight transactional. Buddy, I don't know of a way to avoid that. If you're going to bring in 5 new offensive linemen in the portal again next year, and 4 more defensive starters in the portal again next year, and a new quarterback in the portal, I'm just,
Yeah, and that's assuming that none of the active guys leave from here.
You're going to have a hard time seeing a connective tissue season to season. How are you going to build it? This is where the way you analyze, view, and vet in the interview process a coach is really going to have to change. Is he that kind of guy that can does he galvanize? Does he bring people together? Is he a leader of men? Is he straightforward? Or does he engage in rhetoric nonsense, which I don't think works the way that it used to? I think you now have to be, just as the player is, that kind of transactional. From day one, you have to say, look, I'll care as much as you care to pour in. I'm going to give everything I have, but the second I realize you're not, you will not be here. And I don't care. This is the way it's going to have to be. I cannot withstand too many of you giving half-ass efforts before this thing is completely derailed. So I'll move on just the way you would if you were unhappy. And you're just honest about it. And then hopefully you grow together. You find the guy that's not, who's about that action, who's in, who's like, I got it, coach. I believe in you. We're good. I ain't going anywhere. All right, we'll see. We'll see. Let us lose a few games. See where you're at. And then you find out he's for real. Then, all right, you'll go to war with that guy. And you got to try to one by one add those kinds of pieces. I just think it's really hard to do.
Yeah, until you have rev share agreements that have teeth and multi-year agreements that have teeth. This is what you're going to have to be, which is you almost have to throw everything out at the end of the year. And I don't mean the roster. I'm just saying your strategy. And you almost have to be a brand new teacher of the same course every year. Even though you might have enough pieces that you can have continuity for scheme, man, even as a coordinator, it's hard to bank on, I'm going to have my guys who can run my scheme year to year.
Well,
you better be multiple. You better be ready to run multiple things.
Some people would argue the opposite. Some people would argue that you've got to be basic, that you got to run the most basic of tenets because you got to be able to teach it on the fly to a new guy every year.
Yeah, I could see that argument, but I'm just thinking of a front, 6-man front these days is more normal. Like, I don't have a 4th guy who can put his hand in the dirt. I better be able to coach it up with 3 guys who can do that.
Yeah.
Or if you're a guy who loves to run the ball, but this particular year, that offensive class that you're bringing in, that O-line class ain't so good, but they're much better in pass pro. You better be able to dial up a couple of schemes through the air because year to year, it's just going to be so very different. It's much more NFL-like in that way, where your roster, just a few key pieces leave. You don't have that 3-year solution that you've been growing in and grooming for the role.
You got to get to a place where you can sign multi-year deals. Agreed. You need to know this is what I was talking about. When people get mad that players are getting paid, I think they're less mad about players getting paid than they realize. They're mad about being able to leave year over year anytime they want.
Yep, that's what it is. Yeah.
I mean, I don't really care in a sport that generates billions of dollars and pays coaches $12 million a year in football-only facilities that cost hundreds of millions of dollars and chocolate fountains and video games and, the like. I don't really care if we want to shave off a piece of the pie for the players. That's good. That's a good thing. You got to make it so they can't walk out the door the second they're pissed off that a coach demanded effort from them on a Wednesday when they had a cold. Like that. That's what we've got to get rid of for this to be something that people can invest in because they want to see players grow within a system and be something of what they were at a university, which is a year-over-year participant in the process. For our case, it's school, but in their case, it's football.
Well, it also fixes the idea on signing day. Yeah, I don't get excited on signing day.
Well, who does anymore?
I mean,
for 2 reasons.
But if we had the number 5 recruiting class in the country, I'd be excited, but I'd say, yeah, I hope he stays.
You'd be shocked if we had the number 5 recruiting class in the country under this coaching staff.
Yeah, I would. But even still, you get a guy like Croma, and he hasn't been all world this year. But let's say that over the next month of games, he plays well. And he plays really well for the last 2 games at NC State and Florida, and he averages like 130 yards a game.
Don't lose those games, and maybe you keep him.
Well, that's my whole thing is, easy. Might want to rotate in Singleton again. Let's I want to make sure he's a part of next year's team. Well, I should never have to think like that.
Croma was out there for 13 plays in this last game. What gives there?
Well, Singleton played well.
Out of nowhere, what the hell made us pull that trigger?
He's a pure soul, as Norvell said today.
Poor soul that was sitting his pure soul that was sitting his ass for the vast majority of his time here. I don't know. It's very hard to get a handle on. Final hour forthcoming. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Let me tell you about my friends at Tried and True Consulting, a Seminole-owned business that specializes in payments and business solutions. Tried and True's core expertise includes